My guest is Samuel Egube, Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget. It's against the backdrop of Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu presenting the budget before the Lagos State House of Assembly yesterday. It's a big one, but still, for reasons that have been explained, it's slightly less at 1.692 than the 1.75 billion. But then there was some crafty forward-looking and reading the horizon and knowing how to make gains. So here we are, and we've been looking at other aspects. Now, I was going to ask him, one, the performance of the outgoing budget.
The outgoing budget has performed very well, but Lagos is a city for excellence, so we always want to be at the high 80s, 90 ranges. So as at September, we're at 74% in terms of performance of the 2022 budget. There's still a lot to go. We are going to close a bond, and that will help accelerate certain projects. So Mr. Governor and the entire cabinet is still extremely hopeful that we will get up to the 90 ranges. That's what we're working on.
This 90 range, is it a Sanwo-Olu dream, or is this the tradition through the administrations going back that they've been seeking, they've been aiming that high?
So Mr. Governor has grown in an environment of high pressure. Don't forget he was in corporate finance in the banking industry. So he's a high pressure, high performance person. But Lagos also, when you look at the history of their leaders, all the way from Ashiwaju, to now, you will also see that they are high pressure, high performance people. So I think it's the tradition. And I guess that's why Lagos always comes back to vote for continuity and vote for this type of people, because what is in the family is in the family.
Okay.
Right?
Now,
so that's exactly what's going on.
So many exciting things, because I want to leave room for calls, because I know that there's so many people that want to ask questions about it or make their own commentary. How exactly is this 2023 budget going to be funded? More borrowing? People say we shouldn't be afraid of borrowing.
Okay, the first thing is that you should not be afraid of borrowing. I explained to you how borrowing, used creatively and responsibly, can create a lot of value for the future. And so it is irresponsible borrowing that can create a lot of challenges. So first, you shouldn't be afraid of borrowing. The second point about borrowing is that the structure of the borrowing matters also. So if I take 10 billion naira from you and I have to pay in 2 years, then it means I must pay 5 billion every year. But if I took 10 billion and I'm paying in 10 years, it means I only owe a debt service obligation theoretically of about 1 billion. Now, a lot of our borrowings are very long-term, and I don't know any state in Nigeria that borrows at the low interest at which we borrow. In fact, the rail transaction were single digits. Not even international banks could compete with that when you then put the foreign exchange exposure risk in addition to it. So we are borrowing in Naira, no foreign exchange exposure risk, and we have it long. So our sustainability is indeed very strong. It's the reason why Fitch rating agency reaffirmed our AAA risk rating to reaffirmed our AAA rating. Right, so that is exciting to us, and we guard sustainability like watchdogs. I mean, we don't want to vary it, so that's not a challenge. But this year we have called and reined in our level of borrowing. I mean, last year the deficit position was about 521. This year is just 350, because again we did quite a lot of significant things last year, knowing what the times will be like this year. So we'll be coming out again to do a bond, right, in 2023, about 150 billion of the 350 billion in deficit funding will come by way of bonds.
Because there are critics who are saying that, look, all this borrowing is against our great-great-grandchildren to come and pick up later on. Are such people, not knowledgeable enough about how these things work?
Well, if you are not knowledgeable, then it will certainly be a problem. But if I did not borrow to do what I did, on the rails, then today I won't be able to tell you that you will have rails running by the end of this year or first quarter next year. I won't be able to tell you that. And if you then want to do it, you remember we were supposed to do a metro rail a long time ago, right? And because we didn't do it, it's moved beyond our capacity to do it, right? Because the prices are no more the same, right? So there's a lot of advantages in taking, as long as you are taking it responsibly.
Okay, sort of strategic borrowing.
It has to be strategic. It has to be used for the things that can create value in the future. So by that next year, businesses have grown on the back of the infrastructure you've put on. They have employed people, right? A lot of those people now have children working, not depending on them, and it is stimulating the entire economy for growth.
So these great-great-grandchildren actually have value.
They have value that they would not have had.
They would not have, in addition to having to repay. So it's a different thing when the ground is clear, there's nothing on ground, and you have to be paying through your nose, so to speak. And it's a different thing when you have high value, is the sort of a very, very basic way in which I understand what you've just said.
Exactly.
Okay. Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest. Good morning, sir, our guest in the studio.
Okay,
yeah, I want to find out from our guest.
Sanwo-Olu.
There was during the meeting with the international community, the IMF and the World Bank.
Yes.
The managing director was complaining that most of the budget we do in Africa today, that it doesn't carry along the downtrodden, the poor people. Why is it so? Because when we talk about budget must carry everybody, but you see that the elites are 70% beneficiaries of any budget. That is why you see the level of poverty, as everybody knows very well, is going down. That is just increasing. Now, monitoring of our budget is always a major problem. You see, a government will now come now today that this is what they are budgeted for. But before you talk to Robinson now, they will tell you there's no money to finance the project. But at the end of the day, you see people working in all those agencies coming to do what they say leftover sharing. But 40% of the jobs were not done. Why is it so? And I thank God for Lagos State. Like as you said, Lagos State is one of the highly rated states in Nigeria. Now, what are people going to do now? Now that flood is everywhere, do you still have that record that the budget of this present one, this 1.something trillion, will cover all these exits that Lagos, they should generate a lot of things, because I don't think Lagos should be going to Abuja every month to collect money.
No, they're not, but they still collect. They don't sneeze at it. They don't sneeze at it. They still collect. In fact, it's in 3 figures. So yeah, but first of all, if I were to extract the question from Maz's submission, that how about the ordinary man? It's okay for all these special areas that you've emphasized, but the ordinary, so to speak, downtrodden that you're doing your best to lower the number of in Lagos?
So the Lagos State budget never comes into this stage without significant amount of engagement. So before the budget is crafted, even before it goes to cabinet, right, we have what we call the consultative forum, and we go to all the divisions of Lagos. We're talking to the people, the civil society group, the traditional institutions, the religious institutions. We were at Ikorodu, we were at Ekpe, we were at Lagos Island, where we covered Badagry division. In fact, all of them we do cover. The reason why we do that is because the budget belongs to the people, really. And so you need to be able to take input. But it's not only us that do that. The House of Assembly members also have stakeholder engagement. It's the reason why the conversation between the executive and the House of Assembly is very crucial and critical. Comparing notes with what is coming from the people and ensuring a lot of those things are covered.
And it would
now,
appear, okay.
We do all of that. Now, so when I talk about human capital development, we are going to do something of about 550-something billion in that sector. It is not the rich that we are trying to develop. We are really trying to develop people who need it, people who need skills. We are engaging our vocational centers. We are training people in handiwork so that they participate in the economy.
That's what I was saying about, trying to lower the number of the desperately poor as much as possible. Now, Soji in Abuja, good morning to you, sir, and thank you for holding on.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead now, please.
All right, perfect. My name is Soji. I'm actually calling from Abuja. I have just three quick contributions to make. I want to. The first contribution I have to make this morning is one on property development in Lagos. Well, we understand that property development in Lagos is one of the epicenter in Nigeria, and if Lagos gets it right in the regulation, it will go a long way. I want to know which agencies is responsible in regulating property developers, because they enshrine some laws that cannot fit into the system. I actually stay in Scotland, and I just visited Abuja, and I'm leaving next week. And I bought a property, and when they gave me the condition, they said I have to pay for generator before I'm giving my key. I have to pay for electricity connection. There are some laws that it makes it so cumbersome that it just become a laughing stock. I went to the office to Meridian, and I told them that if you can convince me that I have to pay for generator or for, what if I just want to use solar for my house? I don't want to use your power. I have to pay for this before I connect. So I want to know, because if you are able to regulate, I don't want them to keep taking advantage of our weak system, or if we have regulators. And secondly, what I want to ask again, if you can have we can go online and do a search. We don't have to start going through a very tedious process. From our site online, we can just know which properties are genuine, which owners, and if you can do all that. And the quick one, a very quick one, is in terms of security of our funds. Sometimes we want to invest in Nigeria, and we just have some people just come and something just happen, and you can't get your fund back. And you don't have an organized body who can listen to you. We go to the Diaspora Commission, it's so cumbersome. So Lagos is more like one of the most, in fact, the most advanced state in Nigeria. So if we can get it right in Lagos, I believe a lot of states will take cue from there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Soji, for calling in. Soji's interest is what it is. Our guest, he's the Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, but he's gone into a number of very specific areas. I suppose being in the cabinet, you would have heard your colleagues address these, and maybe you can be of assistance to him. No,
so Soji, it's nice that you are speaking of the challenges you are facing in Abuja, and as you speak like this, it's very important to everyone because they hear and they begin to respond. Some of those rules which you are speaking about sometimes are estate-specific rules, but some of them also are general physical planning rules. Now, when it comes to Lagos, we do not have those type of rules, even though it's always important that you comply with the rules before you go ahead. So when you're thinking about a development, it's nice to know. The agencies that are responsible for that in Lagos is largely the physical planning authorities, who basically look at all of that. But the other agencies, when you talk about sound, silence, air pollution, and all of those things, you have agencies like LASEPA, which is the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agencies. In issues around land, you have the Ministry for Land that takes care of that. And we have a very young agency, which is what we call the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Agency, that comes in to just ensure some of those risks that you talked about are mitigated against. I mean, where you put in money to a developer and you cannot see the developer, you cannot see the agency. We want to be able to regulate that so that all developers are registered and are known by government. And if you are going to be paying money in advance, we want to be sure that there's some level of security or custodian service around those monies you pay upfront. So Lagos is quite developed and ahead in some of these areas.
He also asked about being able to,
search for things remotely.
Thank you. He would be like
good. So your Lagos State is quite advanced in that area. We have an e-GIS system that we would. That by the first quarter, I mean, it's been completed largely, but by the first quarter of next year, you will be able to run some of those searches to just check out
That's
some of
good
those
to know.
things.
Mr. Commissioner, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to jump to Fidel, who has called in from Owerri. Good morning, Fidel in Owerri.
Thank you very much. And I want to appreciate what the commissioner is saying there. And to quickly add that one thing is to have a budget. Another thing is the implementation of such budget. I hope the Lagos state government has a machinery to monitor and ensure that the budget is appropriately implemented. Another thing, we have cases where budgets are often doctored and at times padded. There must be also a way of doing this so that the budget will really touch positively on the lives of the people whom the budget is actually meant for, and not a situation where it is overbloated and probably padded to satisfy the caprices, whims and caprices of those who may have the opportunity of being in the House of Assembly, commissioners like himself, and so on and so forth. But above all, whatever that is happening, the government should ensure that the common man in Lagos State does not suffer because people are now living in penury. There is need to protect them through economic situations that will not be too harsh for the living of the people. Thank you and God bless you. I'm Fidel Onyeneke.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Onyeneke. I think you've spoken on this a bit. There's a policy almost resembling nobody being left behind in Lagos.
Certainly, we have what we call the asset register for the vulnerable, which we are building. We have criteria that we use to build that register. But beyond that, we have agencies like the Wealth Creation, Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Civic Engagement, SDG and Investment, who look a lot at our vulnerable to just ensure that no one is left behind. Mm-hmm. Traditionally also, the government also looks at all 377 wards, which is the smallest unit, to just ensure that there's at least a project, right, that is being done.
And there are 377 of them.
Yes, that is being done per ward. But it is the fascinating thing about Lagos. People are calling from Abuja, they are calling from Owerri, some might call from abroad. Everybody is interested in Lagos. Lagos has the single point where you have a lot of the headquarters of maybe 80% of the big corporation. We have the highest concentration of the cerebral minds in Lagos. Lagos cannot run without scrutiny, right? Okay. And that is why he should be rest assured that there can be nothing like doctoring. There's a lot of transparency and accountability. That we have every now and then. We always go back to account there. The consultative fora I talked about, we always account. So there will be a lot of accountability. My ministry is responsible for monitoring and the implementation status of everything we do around the budget. Okay. Right. So all of that, he needs to be assured that we have that within, and then the people of Lagos are not quiet people. They speak up, they talk their mind, and they are monitoring also with us.
Now, you were saying earlier that Lagos is such as it is. People are calling in from, Abuja. People are calling in from Owerri. Well, you can add Finland to the list because Mr. Raji has just called in from Finland. Good morning to you, Mr. Raji.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. I am really enjoying your program, and my greetings to the commissioner.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
My question is so very simple. He has spoken fantastically. Economic planning commissioner. I want to ask him, those boys extorting.
Who don't say this is?
Only God knows what happened
we
there.
need to get him back. I like the question.
He didn't even start.
He
started up from those boys extorting.
Exactly. So
I was wondering.
It was something.
So sorry about that, Mr. Raji.
I hope he's able to call back.
I wonder what area of extortion there might be in Lagos. Just dipping my hand in a hat with blindly. Perhaps he's talking about motor garages or all those kind of things. I'm totally guessing. I can't read your mind, but you use the word extortion, extorting. Could you comment on whether or not there is extortion going on in garages and whether it is being addressed?
So he didn't quite mention garages.
No, he didn't.
But he talked about extortion.
And then extortion.
When you think about a city like Lagos, a mega city with over 25 million people, you get incidents of extortion from time to time. But extortion is not within our laws, neither within our guidelines. So
it's criminal.
Where you see extortion, things like bullying, sometimes you see some of those things just by the nature of it, that it's a big city, but they are not within what the society approves. So we must always continue to speak. As we see things, we speak, and government rises up to that challenge to just ensure that sometimes we shut down schools because of incidents of bullying and all of all that.
For example, all
sometimes
these antisocial practices.
Yeah, sometimes we limit the operations of associations, right, which we feel are showing flares around things around extortions. And one other thing we are going to do now is to actually advertise what the laws, the taxes and levies are, so that everybody knows what it is. So nobody comes and gives you a Sanwo-Olu levy, because they call these things all kinds of names. But I think the whole idea, when you look at the society, as you begin to lift people away from poverty, giving them skills to do work that is responsible, giving them education, giving them funding to help them start up their businesses, you then begin to see that it begins to moderate the behavior of our people. Right? As you begin to deploy all of those things and enforce also some of those laws, you begin to see that it acts as retardants to mold the behavior of our people. And I think that's what we want. We live together. We must build ourselves together. I mean, we're a city with over 300 tribes spoken by people who call themselves Lagosians. Every of these people calling from Finland, from Owerri, from Abuja, are Lagosians in their heart. Every Nigerian of significance has a piece of Lagos in his heart. And we are quite excited all the time when we hear feedback, we hear criticisms, we hear opinions, we hear contributions of how to raise Lagos better.
In that regard, the governor also, when he was delivering the budget speech yesterday, he reiterated an idea I first heard of from Senator Olu Tinubu. The special status for Lagos needs to still be center stage under consideration. There needs to be a consideration because Lagos is what it is. It is doing the things that it is doing. I think the governor...
No, he mentioned that. And it's something I always say every time I have the opportunity. When Lagos prospers, Nigeria prospers. Nigeria has its best chance of succeeding in Lagos. When that airport road is turned to a 10-lane highway from 4, it is Nigeria, right, that gets the glory, even though Lagos is undertaking it. When we talk about the 10-lane Badagry Highway, Lagos is undertaking it, but it's on the Nigerian-West Africa trade corridor. When we facilitate $600 million in investment with our partners in the Lekki Deep Sea Port, it will increase the capacity of our shipping by 3 times what we have in Apapa is Nigeria. So it's the reason why we say, look, we must look at Lagos beyond being a state, but being one that takes on the burden of the Nigerian state, and we are happy and we feel honored to do that.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it there, Samuel. Mr. Samuel Egube, Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Development. I mean, almost as exciting as your governor when he was presenting it yesterday, because there was so much in that package.
You can't look at the future of Lagos and not be excited.
And not be excited.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much,
Indeed.
Yori.
So that's our program today. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.